You rocking with the one and only your boy, TheCzarr, all rights reserved. Let me conversate about something real quick once again. Now, I have an issue that I want to address, and part of it has a lot to do with Instagram and things. This is ridiculousness. So, when you watch the show, it's almost comical. When I make comments up here, it seems that there's people that love to carry my narrative and say something. Hopefully you know that's a violation. And the thing is, I'm starting to find that it's a lot of young kids. Who's performing corruption of minors? Who's making these minors to behave how they are? Number one, they're not legally using these social media sites that they're on. So let's nip that in the bud. If they are the age that they say they are, most of them are not legally using it. So essentially, this is corruption of minors for whoever's behind it. And we will find out. Another thing is, you can't just post my videos up and add words. Like, you're confused. You see, when I post it, it's organic. It's what the person had. You can't place what words you want to go on it and then say I'm saying something. You can't do that. Baby girl, I could take your whole IG down. Or if you're a man, God help us all, or a boy, because you have very odd behavior. You're moving very weak about it. Again, remember I told you, everybody who had nothing to do with progression is going to want some type of stance to say they did something. And none of them are built to do anything. Now, I understand it's a child's dream or whatever. You don't want to show your face because you're underage, but if you're a grown man or woman, shame on you. I made some of you start showing yourselves. I made some of you do it because of how I talked about it, and it was all fat. You were soft and weak. You won't show it. You're lame. You don't want to show yourself to do media. Another thing, somebody's starting to mention that, oh, there was this many women that said that they were his. Okay. What does that have to do with me? You can't push your narrative off on me because you want it to weigh up a certain way. Just because someone said they were, and I already called out take a DNA test a certain way, it doesn't change for you. This is objective. When would I change the narrative for you? It's subjective. If I'm telling them to, I say the same thing to you. You refused. Good. This has nothing else to do with any of you then. If you're making a claim publicly, okay, whether it's social media, whether you're on the news, that you bear someone of relation, proof will be requested. There's no way around that. Proof is requested. And if you're trying to get around that, understand that common sense is saying, wait, this person is literally stepping around what's being requested, but why? Common sense asks that. Now, I get you may be young and you may lack the common sense that is required to make the necessary decisions that are inquiries because of what's being said, but that doesn't take away from the fact it's still relevant. And my thing is, why do you watch if you don't like it? Now, I know the same grown woman that's behind the same type of stuff because you always hide. You always hide. You always stayed hidden. That's not my fault. It's not my fault you can't stand behind your words as a grown woman. It's not my fault that grown men have to get on fake names and say things. How is that my fault? That you're built funny. How is that my fault? Who raised you? That's how you're built. Period. And that's sad. But that's on another note. So let me get into another piece of this. If the way you see yourself as progress is, ooh, child, let me spill the tea, you're the worst thing that's happened to social media. Because you don't care if justice happens. You don't care if someone is deceased over anything. You just want to hide yourself and talk about tea. But let me clue you in on something. In reality, your type of person is the first to go. Now, I ain't got to go into detail with what that means. I ain't even going to, because if you're young, you don't get it. And you were raised by dummies. But that's point blank. You're the first to go. Literally. Because of how you're built. You're built crazy. And you don't care what your media does. You don't look for some type of conclusion. All you do is look to twist words, twist narratives, and try and entertain people that way when we've taken nothing but seriousness to it. Again, it's a distraction. And you'll be dealt with. But understand, stop trying to push that person as a narrative, because if anything, that opens you up for identification. When you're pushing certain people in a narrative, you open yourself up. None of the focus is on what happened. None of the focus is on how it happened, why it happened, who was involved, what happened earlier. None of your focus is there. It's on spilling tea until someone takes tea and dumps it on you. That's how it works. And you don't get it because this form of thinking seems to be beyond your simple mind right now. But trust me, you'll get it. You will. You'll eventually get it. But that's the ultimate thing. You're not going to get it till it's too late. That's the sad part. But in the end, just remember that people kept it real with you. I kept it real. I didn't do anything sideways. I kept it facts. If I had something to say, if I alluded to it, I gave reasoning. You think playing with the media a certain way is going to make you holier than thou in a case that has a lot of twists and turns, and you don't understand them all. Listen, it's one thing to be stuck up under a case getting information. That's their perspective. But when you're sitting back looking at all the angles and you just follow what you're told, that's the problem. You follow everything you're told and you don't look a day beyond that. You make threats after threats and think that the threats you've made over points in time aren't going to come back to bite you. You make decisions, and the thing is, all of your executive decisions needed someone else to be around. It needed someone else to be involved, and you had to use another person in order to make them come true. We took our discussions off of concepts, subjects, topics, and things we found of interest. That's why we're really dream chasing. And you're doing this. And that's why it's agony sometimes. That's why for you, it hurts to do things. But we put in work. And you're going to declare you put in work. But who's work harder? Who was here since the beginning? Who's just showing up? Who was never around? Who's not going to stick around for the long run? All of these things define. Who said, oh, I'm gone, I'm out of it? How many times? But who's always stood their ground? That's the difference maker. And that's the difference between me and what a lot of other people do. That's the difference between people trying to get the T and people trying to find out what's going on, like the A-Team and Mr. T. Are you serious? There's no comparison. Anyone can make a declaration. I'm son of the moon. I'm a descendant of some of the greatest African kings, and my family aligns with Genghis Khan. Those are declarations and statements that need to be proven, correct? So how do you think spilling tea, making statements, is some type of powerful statement when you can't show yourself because allegedly you're way underage, or allegedly you're an adult coward? Because an adult can still talk like a child, think like a child, behave like a child. Can they not? Really? When it comes to this mentality thing, if you ain't been through nothing, you can't stand for nothing. When you've been through it, you understand and you learn from your mistakes and mentality and know how to progress. That's the problem. A lot of you are progressing and you literally are dead weight. Or you're progressing off the backs of others, off the greatness of others, feeling like you should be excused when the same mistake you made wasn't once, twice, wasn't even 3 times. It was like 5 or 7, 10 times. Learn from your mistakes. And learn media. All rights reserved.